Hello and welcome to Quilt Addicts Anonymous. I'm Stephanie Soebbing and I am surrounded by a ton of new stuff that we have here at Quilt Addicts Anonymous. So today we're going to take a peek at some of the new things that have come out in quilty goodness that you guys can get. And stay tuned, make sure you watch the video to the end, because once we look at all this, we're going to do an interview with Shell Rummel, who is the designer of Time and Tide, which you can see here. And then also behind me, it is gorgeous, it is lovely. We have the entire collection and you can get it as a fat quarter bundle with a lovely panel. All right, so first let's take a look at some of the cool new things that we have. So we have a new bag kit for Tourist Tote. This is one of the all-time videos that we have ever done where you guys love this pattern. You can make the entire bag from start to finish in about 4 hours because it's not a lot of pieces and it's very beginner friendly. So we came up with a new kit with some fabric from Dear Stella. It is really, really gorgeous. Check out the link below. We'll have a link in the eye and a link down below to everything that's in this video. So this is all like while supplies last, because most fabric companies, when they print, it's like a one and done thing and you usually aren't able to get any more once you get your initial order. But this is a really, really pretty print. Our sample maker for this, Mary, did a fabulous job of centering the peacock in the center here. It just looks beautiful. And then we have this nice citron for our handles to bring out a lot of the greens in there. And then we have this nice deep dark blue for the bottom, and then we also have a nice gray pebble on the inside. I like gray because then if it gets a little dirty you can't tell so much, but it's still light enough that you can see everything. This is the bag that I use on a daily basis because I can just throw everything in it and go. I can throw my laptop in there, I throw baby diapers in there, I throw my wallet, everything that I possibly need goes in this bag and I can just tote it around wherever I go. So this is a great everyday bag to have. You can carry absolutely everything in it. All right, so another kit that we're going to have is using this new Dear Stella line. It is really gorgeous. We have had a similar line to this in the past that we've done beginner quilting kits with, and they really sold out super fast. So when the artist came out with new ones, we decided we've got to have it. So we'll pop up a photo of what the digital image of the quilt is going to look like, but all these really dark prints, those are going to be your focal prints, and then this really light flower is going to be your background. So this is going to be a quilt that has a lot going on, but because this has such a big contrast to these prints, it really is going to work very well as a quilt and just be really beautiful. But we have some really pretty florals here, and then we have some night moths, and it just looks like a nighttime garden. It's just really pretty. You've got nice modern florals, you've got a little fox here, and then some stars and some moons. This was made by the same designer from the last collection that we had that we did some beginner quilt kits in, and you can see that it just works up really nice and looks really very pretty and very stunning. So this will look fabulous as beginner kits. I also forgot to mention that we still have the Tourist Totes in the apple over here. We still have these in stock, and that is a really great bag too. That is canvas on top and cork on the bottom, which makes it super durable. And so that would be a great gift for any teacher you know who is working really hard right now, because this is the hardest year of their lives, and they can use that to carry all the things that they need to go back and forth in, and they are actually on sale right now. All right, so we're going to take a quick peek at one more line that we have, and then we are going to take a closer look at Time and Tide. All right, so this is Cora by Tessie Faye for Wyndham Fabrics. I wish we could bring in every single line that I loved on Bolt, but we can't always do that. So this one we just have on fat quarters, and it is fabulous. If you need a pick-me-up, the winter blues have got you down, plus, you know, everything else that's happening in the world, this fabric will do it. It's very bright, and it has some beautiful modern florals in it. These big main prints are just super gorgeous. And then there's some smaller florals, and they do a really great job with some supporting prints as well, with some smaller scale florals in a couple of different colors. These remind me of like a citrus tree. I don't know why, but they do. And then there's also these tiny little hearts, both in a multicolor and then some also coordinating prints, and then a lovely stripe. So this would make a fabulous fat quarter quilt. We have lots of fat quarter friendly patterns. You can check them out on our website, and then also my book, Fat Quarter Workshop, which is back in stock now. We now have our second printing has arrived, so you can order that as well. And this would just make a really fun pick-me-up mood booster quilt for sure. So we have a limited quantity of the fat quarter bundle, so definitely check that out. I feel like this bag is also a mood booster, just to go back to it. I mean, it's just so bright and fun, and it just, you know, it'll be a good spring bag to lift the spirits. All right, I've cleared the decks a little bit here. We're gonna take a look at Shell Rummel's latest line, Time and Tide. Now, we're gonna chat with Shell Rummel in just a second. You can hear her inspirations for the collection, but I wanna give you an up-close look at the fabric. I will tell you that while we do a lot of really bright stuff on this channel, I love Shell Rummel. I have an entire shelf full of her quilts over here. Every collection she has put out with FreeSpirit, I have made something with, or I'm going to be making something with. And this is one of the few designers where I'm like, I want a fat quarter bundle of that for me. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet, but I will do something with it. And I don't do that with all of them, obviously, because I would be a hoarder. But I absolutely need to have every single one that Shell does, because they're just so fantastic. All right, so this one here is Murmuration. It's just little seabirds flying. And then we have Beach Glass is what this print is inspired by. And then we have some tide lines, so this mimics the lines that are made when the sea goes in and back out again. We have urchins. This one makes an appearance over a couple of collections. Sea flower. And her signature pebble print, this one appears over multiple collections as well. And then also some more sea flower, but now in a more brown colorway. Urchin again in a little bit deeper blue. Murmuration again in that deeper blue, and then we have the panel, and I'm gonna unfold the panel so you can see it in its true glory, because you've got to see the whole thing. So before we take a really close look at this panel, I got to tell you a little backstory here. So Shell and I have collaborated together for a long time. When I was making my first book, Simple Quilts for the Modern Home, I used 2 of her collections in it, tagged her on Instagram, and that just began a friendship and a collaboration, and we worked on several of her collections where I've created projects to help bring them to life. For this one, when she was creating it, she knew she wanted to use a panel, and I was actually one of the people that she texted and called and was like, hey, which one are you feeling from a quilting perspective? Because as an artist perspective, you know, she knew what she was feeling, but she wanted a quilter's take on it, on like how to use it. And this panel is not your typical panel. It doesn't have like a clear cut point. There is a clear repeat, but and it's 24 inches wide, but if you want to use it as yardage, you absolutely can, and just cut it up and have every single one be a little bit different depending on where you get it. Or you can use it as an actual panel where you cut it 24 inches by width of fabric and then fill in around there. But this is one of her original artworks that she created using watercolor, and I just love it. I think it's absolutely fantastic. It really shows off like the water and clouds and sky. You can see that it just changes, and that texture is just there, and it is just so absolutely beautiful as you go from top to bottom. And it has these little flecks of brown that it's not metallic, but it almost has like a metallic feel to it, especially when you're seeing it in the little flecks. And it is just fantastic. I cannot wait to play with this and come up with something that will do it justice. So the way we're selling this is we are going to sell it as a fat quarter bundle with the full panel. So we probably will not have much yardage. There might be some that we might have a little bit of yardage of, depending on how much is on the bolts. But for the most part, you're going to get the entire fat quarter bundle with a full panel that is 24 inches wide by the full width of fabric. So that way you can really just come up with something fun to do with this, and you'll have all the fabrics that you need, the supporting players, to really make this stand out and look absolutely fantastic. All right, so now we're going to go chat with Shell Rummel, and we're going to hear a little bit more about what inspired this beautiful collection. Well, thanks for taking some time out of your day, Shell, to chat with us. So we're here to talk about Time and Tide, and in the video before, people have already seen it close up. So let's chat a little bit about your collection. I know that you wanted to kind of work with a panel type print that was one of your original artworks and kind of expand from that. So how did that come to be?
So this collection is so special to me because I've been pushing for a panel print for quite a few collections now. So probably about 4 years since I've been working with FreeSpirit. And this is the first collection where I really feel like my vision for the collection came to light 100%. That it never happens. It never happens like that. It was like, yes, it's there. And it started with the painting that you see behind me. This is one of my wall art pieces. And this was what I wanted to bring into the world of quilting in some sort of a panel print. And I'm so excited that we were able to make that happen. This collection came about via a move. It was what was supposed to be a part-time move down to the beautiful Gulf Coast of Florida. Mm-hmm. And then the pandemic hit and we're still here. we haven't gone back up north. And up north for me, I have two studios. I have a studio up in the Northern Virginia area, right outside of Washington, D.C. And then I have what was going to be kind of my inspiration studio down here on the Gulf Coast of Florida. We're in a sleepy little town, little country town, very close to the beach. And so this to me was like getting away from the city, the big hustle and bustle of Washington, D.C., and coming to Florida where I could just relax and think and really kind of fill my inspiration well back up, as all artists need to do from time to time. And so this collection really is a culmination of that move and coming here. And the first few months of being here, it was so quiet and it was all about sort of rejuvenating and getting my energy back and figuring out what I wanted direction-wise to do with my business. You know, this was 2020. It's a tough year for all of us. We've all been impacted in so many different ways. So my feeling was I'll come to Florida and it'll just be like a little escape and I can think on the direction I want to take my company, because as artists and business owners, we do that, right? From time to time, you do need to really regroup and think about your business. And so that's what being here was all about. Time and Tide came about during these long walks on the beach when I would, see all the beautiful seashells here that are so unique and so different from the beaches up north, and look at the water and reflect on that. And I wanted to bring a collection to life that, that's really me, that really feels like me and has all the elements of those things that I notice when I'm exploring or just sitting at the beach trying to relax. That's what this collection really has been for me.
Well, one of my questions for you is going to be, since your brand is Modern Coastal, your art is Modern Coastal, how has that move from Florida really, has that impacted you, and obviously significantly?
Well, yes. I mean, being here, being surrounded by this, first time in my life, by the way, like such a gift, right? To be able to come and be so close to the ocean. I've always been, at least the last 25 years, up in the DC area, very landlocked. And so going to the beach was like a once a year event, big deal, 4 hours in the car to get to Rehoboth, Delaware. And that was fantastic. I loved that too. But this is like any day of the week, if I want to just get down to the beach and, have a little time there, I can do that. Having, I think, access to so much of the coastline that really speaks to my soul obviously comes through in the collections that I create. I wanted to honor the fluid mediums that I work with, right? So I tend to work with alcohol inks. I obviously am a watercolor artist. These things are all very fluid. They kind of go how they want to go. And creating, pulling from that, the inspiration that I see around me, and then trying to make that happen with mediums that don't always cooperate because if anybody's worked with watercolor out there, watercolor kind of does its thing. And so being able to kind of control it in a way that it feels like what I want it to feel like in the end product is amazing. Doesn't mean that I'm not working on different things that are not so typically modern coastal. I think there's always an element of the ocean and water and light and texture and line and all those things that are so kind of integral to my brand. But I'm always trying to kind of feel for the next thing and, see where that's going to take me. And so, whereas I think that modern coastal element always is an underlier for me, the next collection you'll see goes in a little bit of a different direction. So
very interesting. I'll be interested to see it.
To be able to kind of have both, being so inspired that the artwork can directly reflect what I'm seeing and feeling around me, but also to have the calming influence of being here to be able to explore something completely different.
Well, one thing that I appreciate about your fabrics, and any good designer is going to do this, but not all of them do, they really mix and match from collection to collection. So if you've got ones that are going, you've got a stash of a designer that you love and you really want to do a big quilt, you can really mix and match. We were talking before we started that I have my Shell Rummel shelf over here, and it just all looks good together. It tells a story, it all works. It all has its own theme to it, but it all will incorporate together. And so that's what I really enjoy about it.
We've spoken about this before, and it's very intentional. When I am designing, the thing that I like to do, and I know that my approach may be a little bit different from some of the other designers. A lot of times designers want to give you something completely brand new, totally unique, wow you each time with something new. And I love that. That's hard to do. And so those that do it well, it's like really impressive. In my case, I like the idea of there being some sort of longevity to a collection and having collections tie in from one to the other. So you can go all the way back to my Quiet Moments collection and you're going to find some patterning from Quiet Moments in Time and Tide. Same thing for Rhythm or Reverie or any of the more recent collections. You'll often find that they kind of weave together. If it's not an exact pattern, then it's usually through some sort of a textural component or a color story. So I do tend to go back, pull through what I call my portfolio of pattern. I have, I speak a language of pattern. That's how I tend to see the world. And so I have a very vast portfolio of designs and patterns that I've created through the years. And a lot of times I'm pulling from past collections because they feel like they fit in a new collection and I want to give them some new life. And so I think that's why you see that continuity. It works really well for me and for my brand.
So for this collection, you started with the painting that you did in watercolor. And how did that expand into all the prints and then later translate to something that could be turned into fabric? So
yes, it started with the artwork. The artwork has had its own successful life in the licensing world. I licensed my artwork to a variety of different manufacturers for different product lines. So this piece of artwork I knew was resonating. I had the feedback that it was resonating with a lot of different people. So I knew that I wanted this to be the foundation piece and kind of the showstopper part of this collection. From there, I started to, I was directly influenced by a lot of what I'm seeing around me these days. So for instance, I collect beach glass. I've got beach glass and seashell fragments and things like that all over the place. That directly inspired my beach glass pattern. I knew that I wanted to pull in something that I'm actually seeing on the beach to connect it, because the artwork is kind of funny. Like, it's a little tricky. You look at it, you know that it's ocean, right? The average person, I think, looks at it and says, oh, blues and browns, and it's clearly the waves and it's got movement and ocean vibes. But there's also sections of it that have a very cloud-like vibe to it. So it could kind of be sky. And I have a project behind me that I'll show you at some point today, but that sort of honored that element as well. So I wasn't feeling like I had to be stuck with what you're finding, at the beach. But I wanted it to have that oceany vibe so that it kind of directed the customer towards what this collection was intended to be. You'll notice that there's a pattern called Ebb and Flow. Ebb and Flow is making a repeat appearance. You've seen it before in, I think, Quiet Moments, or a version of. May not have been the same pattern, but a version of. And it's mimicking the tide lines as the water comes in and out. I love, one of my favorite things to do, sit on the beach, and I'm the lady standing standing at the side, where the sand is, and I'm just watching the water flow. And you know how it leaves a little bit of a line as the water recedes again, and then the next wave comes in, and then you get another little line right next to it. And I have 8 million photographs of that exact same thing. And so it often makes an appearance in a lot of my designs. There's a pattern in the collection called Murmuration, which again, is seabirds in my mind, but it is a nod to sky rather than actual water. And murmuration means birds in flight. When you often see those big sort of swarms of birds that are kind of, moving in unison together. I love the feel of the fluidness of that. And so I wanted to pay tribute to something like that. So it's kind of like picking and choosing elements that resonate with me. And yet at the end of the day, for me, it's about making a collection that feels cohesive, that's very, very pretty, that's soft, that picks up the tonal qualities of the watercolor. And that's a hard, really, you've heard me talk about this before, very, very challenging for the mills to get the tonal quality of the watercolor to come through on the fabrics.
Because you're dealing with a specific number of colors that you can include versus an actual artist canvas, which could be any number of things.
So you have to really pare down, and then the screens have to be very precise. And we go through a lot of different sampling to get it right and to get that kind of very subtle, soft gradation that my collections are known for. I don't very often do a graphic print that's just solid, like a solid ground. It's very rare. Most of my grounds have some sort of modeling through them or watercolor feel to them, or something that gives you the sense that this was a watery medium. And so making that come through in the overall collection, again, big part of what I do. I also, I do a lot of blender fabrics because I like that. That's appealing to my eye. I know you go for brights and I tend to go for softs, but even when you do the brights, you need to have something to calm it down.
They can't all be the showstoppers. They need the supporting players to make the showstoppers work.
Exactly. And the Tides panel is like bold, and it's got a life of its own. So I felt that the rest of the collection, I wanted it to be softer because I felt like it would be really competing too much if I had a lot of bolder colors in there. So
one thing I appreciated about how the panel is done is that there isn't a clear, this is where it starts and this is where it ends. I mean, you can tell what the repeat is when you're looking at it, but if you want to get yardage, you can cut it up and use it as yardage and just have it look a little different depending on where it ended up being cut. Or if you want it to be just stand on its own and be the center of your quilt and work around it, that is an option too. But you really are not limited the way you are with mini panels where it's like, well, this can only be this thing.
I'm so glad that you noticed that. That's really great. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I wanted there to be versatility with it. We've talked about this also before, you and I have a sewing machine. I am not a skillful sewer. To me, when I look at the collection, I'm thinking, what can this be? How can I use it? And it's not always necessarily for a quilt, although I'm very slowly moving more towards seeing things from a quilter's perspective because I'm talking with more quilters. I'm working with so many more stores at this point. I am developing a pattern for the first time. So that's completely exciting and crazy to be doing that. So I'm thinking of things in a different way. To me, the Tides panel had so much versatility. Like I could see just taking it and creating a cute sundress. To me, like I want to wear that on my beach. That's where my head is. And I can see it for a lot of home decor products. It's big, it's bold, it needs its place. But like for deck pillows and, certain upholstery projects, like it's like fantastic, like a headboard, upholstering a headboard for a bed, like in a beach house would be like it would be really, really cool. I would love to see something like that. But I'm going to grab it because I just want to hold it and show it to you what I'm thinking of. Like when I look at this fabric, I see so much possibility for stitching, like creative stitching. What I'm planning on doing with it, this is my own little art project. And as soon as I have it finished, then I will make sure you and your customers get to see it. But I'm taking this and I'm literally framing out, I'm cutting different sections of the panel and I'm framing them. It's going to be, I think they're going to be 10 by 10s is where I think we're going to land with it. 10 by 10 inch stretcher stripped behind. So like frame, like you'd make like a little framed canvas. And then each one will be unique. Some of them will be pieced. Some of them will be cut apart and sewn and stitched back together. Some of them will have some applique of some kind of oceany elements on them. And some of them will just be straight embroidery. So that by the time I'm done with that, my plan is to have a whole gallery wall of this panel created in a different way, the way an artist sees it, which is how I envision playing with it. And I don't know, maybe that'll inspire some of your customers to do the same thing, to take it and, of course, I mean, the thing that's so cool about this is that wherever you cut on here, it's going to be like a unique cut. Nothing will ever look the same on it. That's just, to me, that is one of the things that makes it so totally exciting. We've learned that firsthand. I had partnered with a very talented, lovely lady named Alexandra Ferguson, and she made some masks for me. And just a fun little project, but each one unique. And how fun is that? Like, you give her a half a yard of fabric, but every single one of them captures a different element of the fabric, and it looks so unique and so different. And that's one of the things that I really liked about this panel.
So you and I, we've collaborated before on different projects, and this is some of the results over in the corner here. Maybe we can share some photos of them. How much of that, now that you are sewing yourself, how is that informing how you're designing? Because I know you bought a sewing machine very early on in the pandemic because you realized that hand stitching masks was going to take a very long time. So has that changed how you approach fabric design at all now that you're also sewing some? Because you knew how to sew, it wasn't your preferred medium.
Correct. Although I'm liking the concept of doing a lot of what I now know is called improvisational quilting. And so whereas I have not made a quilt, I am very imprecise. I've learned. We all learn things about ourselves, right?
I'm teaching my daughter to sew, and I told her she's doing improv piecing.
Okay, I am like your daughter. Okay. It makes sense. It makes sense to my head. I like the idea of I'm quick about it. I do not have, so far, I've not shown myself that I have the patience for it to be perfectly aligned and precise. I'm sure, maybe down the road that will come. I somehow doubt that, knowing myself. But the thing that I've been doing that I really like is sort of chopping it up, putting it back together in a different kind of a way. That makes sense in my head. When I'm designing collections so far, to be perfectly honest, I have not to this point been thinking about how the quilters will use it, because in my mind, I envision it the way I want it, right? I know what works together. I knew with this Tides panel what the options would be. I had a sense of what could happen with it, but it didn't change the way I created the artwork, if that makes sense. I just knew I wanted a big panel. I wanted it to be flowing. I wanted it to have the ability to be cut up in a million different ways and look unique each time. The artwork existed, so to speak. To me, it was already part of my arsenal, so I didn't have to do too much tweaking. As far as my smaller prints, I think the thing that I think about more than I ever did before is scale. It's getting the scale right so that it can be used in the way that I see it in my head. And then hopefully, and then of course, every time I put a collection out, what I get back when I start to see the different amazing projects that so many of the talented quilters out there present, it's like, oh, never thought of that. So I'm still learning. It's a learning curve for me still.
So people may be familiar with you from outside of the quilting world because your work is licensed in many applications, including, bedding and bath products that you can get at big box stores that we're all familiar with. So how did you go from, I'm an artist, I know, but let's let everyone else know, from I'm an artist and I work in this medium to I get paid for what I do and my work is available in bedding, bath, home decor applications, and now quilting fabric?
We've chatted before, so I have a long circle type of story to get to where I am today. But I guess the abridged version of that is that I'm an artist, first and foremost. I love to paint. I like things to feel, I like the artist's hand to come through in everything that I create. So all of my art is done by hand so far. Actually, starting to do some little weird digital things on the side, but that's just for me. That's fun. Anyway. But I like to be truthful about the way I'm working. But for the most part, artist hand in everything that I do. I'm a painter. I want you to sense the watercolor. I want you to feel it. I want you to, see the imperfectness of what I create. I take my artwork and I license it to various manufacturers who then create their product lines featuring my artwork. And so I have a large assortment of what I call, manufacturing partners, and in different industries, mostly home decor at this point. So I have a rug licensee. I create rugs. I have bedding. I have pillows. I have bath collections. I do have wall art. That's one of my kind of near and dear to my heart licenses, because that's really truly my artwork and nothing really gets changed about it. It's my art, and my art gets, put into frames, and then it's sold to the trade. So that is really the core of who I am. The different licensing partners that I work with are your product is only as good as your partner. So I aim to have really phenomenal licensing partners to work with, because I want the products that bear my name to be beautiful and sellable and covetable by the consumer. So that's technically what I do. Without getting into my whole history of how that all happened, but it's my love for art, that wanting to create something that's really true and different and unique, and find the right partners to create a product line that really honors it. My FreeSpirit license is one of my favorites because the fabric is so beautiful. Every collection that has ever been produced by FreeSpirit Fabrics has been absolutely stunning. The quality is amazing, and they really work with me to truly get the feel of, that watercolor feel to come through on the fabric. They're allowing my medium of choice to come through and make a beautiful product.
What I also like is, if you've done a quilt, you could then maybe go find a throw pillow that you could purchase that's coordinated with it. So you don't have to make it all.
You don't. There's a lot out there. I have a lot of different products. You have to be, I always say, a little bit of a detective to go find it, because it's all over the place. And unfortunately, I don't always get to know where it ends up. But do search my name out there and check out my website, because I do try to keep updating where you can find different product lines of mine.
One of the things that I love is your quilted blanket that has that pebble design as the quilting texture. Yes, but it's big for a whole bed, and it's just fabulous. I have one similar. It's not that one, but I have something similar to that I bought cheaply for my bed, and I always am like, when I grow up someday, I'm going to have that.
This is my Pebble Pattern. My Pebble Pattern is what I call one of my signature patterns, and it does make an appearance in Time and Tide as a blender fabric, very small scale. And it's also, I don't know if you can see, there's a pillow behind me. It's everywhere. It's on a lot of different things in my world, because it's just a pattern that seems to resonate so nicely. And whether it's a tiny little scale, like for the quilting collection, or blown up and stitched on a king size quilt, it's interesting. It just is different and interesting and irregular and imperfect in the way that the pattern was created. It's not, it's not geometric. It's not completely rigid. The circles do change size from piece to piece. It's a very, very interesting pattern. And I think that's contributed to the appeal of it over time.
Well, is there anything else that you're working on right now that we need to know about?
Let me show you one thing, because you'll be the first to see it. It's not me personally, but I wanted, and then I will answer your question. But I want you to see this, because I did collaborate with someone with the Time and Tide.
I saw that behind.
You see?
That's beautiful landscape work.
Okay, so this is Anna Buzzolino. She's an artist and a designer that I met at Quilt Market like 3 or 4 years ago. And we just connected, sort of like you and I connected, and how I tend to do these collaborations when I find somebody who I'm like, that's a cool partner. She just had an interesting style, and the more I've gotten to know her, I knew she would be a good partner for taking the Time and Tide collection and turning it into a cool wall hanging. And she's just done a beautiful job. She's kind of known for doing these pebbles and rocks, and she's done some really beautiful hand embroidery on here. And one of the things that she's done, let me take it down just so you see, that's kind of neat, that maybe will inspire some of your customers, is she has, I don't know how much you can see, but she's really done a lot of stitching. She's basically just followed
the
lines and created this really unique, this one has a nice section. See how she's put all that stitch work in there? It's really pretty. Here's her rocks.
That's always a sign of a good quilter, when they can take a panel and bring it to life by quilting out the texture of it.
It's just a beautiful art quilt. I'm really, I'm very humbled when I find somebody who's able to really take a vision of mine and then and make it come to life like that. It's super, super fulfilling. So I wanted to make sure that I gave Anna a nice shout out. If if anyone's interested in making pebbles, she does do workshops for that. But as far as what I'm doing, I think last time we spoke, I was just getting my studio collection textiles launched. It was my home decor product line, and I've been still working on that. It's been amazing. I love that. It's basically my own patterning that I create upholstery weight fabrics for. It's not quilting cottons, it's upholstery weight, heavier linens and things like that. And I do offer that to the trade. I have just started to connect and work with a new showroom, so I'm very, very excited about that. And then I am working on my next collection for FreeSpirit. So next quilting collection is coming fast. It was a quick one. It kind of came together very quickly. So that's coming down the pike. And I think just like everyone else, kind of decompressing from the last year and just trying to take a breath. And
so far, I feel like 2021 hasn't been a whole lot better, but I'm hoping it'll get there. I'm
hopeful, always eternally optimistic that it will be better. I have taken the time to create with some new, I'm doing some new artwork and new mediums and just experimenting and exploring in a way that I've never had the ability to do before. Being down here in this kind of little bubble, this quiet little protective bubble, it's letting me do more of that. And so that's kind of cool. So you never know what's coming down the road from something like that too.
Do you find you have more time because it's not like we can fill our schedules? I mean, our schedules get full. You and I, just scheduling this was challenging between both of our crazy lives, but it's not like, you have commitments, outside where you have to go here and do this thing.
But because my business is mostly licensing and working with licensees and creating new product lines, I have to say, I had to sort of do some juggling of things. It's been, changing priorities in a couple of different areas over the last 6 months. I've definitely had to do that. But in like the last just few weeks, things got busier again. And, I think that's a testament to maybe the economy is kind of coming back a bit, and some of the industries that took a breath over the last year did the same thing, regrouped, and are now kind of coming back and saying, hey, what kind of new art do you have for this or that? And so fortunately, I've been in the last at least month or so starting to see a pickup again. And, you know, in between, I just do my thing. I do the things that really bring me joy. That was the focus of what moving here was really all about, was kind of resetting the stage for the things in my world, in my business, and in my life that are important and that really fulfill, rather than working with partners that I feel, you know, I'm maybe not as happy with the product line, or doing things that just don't feel like they're really true to me. So it's been a good thing, overall a good thing. And I think this year will settle as we move forward into it. I'm excited.
That's good. All right, well, thanks again for taking some time to chat and for creating such beautiful fabric that we can, you know, I try as a quilt shop owner not to get every fabric, because you know, you can't make money doing that. But your collections, I always am like, save me a fat quarter bundle of that one. If I don't have time to do anything right now, that we'll get to it eventually. So I don't do it with too many artists, but yours are always like, I need one of every of Shell's fabrics to have and do something with at some point.
That makes me really happy. It makes me feel like I'm doing something right. So thank you.
All right. Well, thank you and have a good day.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with me today. I hope you really enjoyed our chat with Shell Rummel to get a little bit of taste of what goes into designing a collection, taking it from artwork to something that we can enjoy and cut up and create something absolutely new with our sewing machines. And just as a reminder, everything that you saw in today's video, you can get over at shop.quiltaddictsanonymous.com. Sometimes things sell out, so if you click on a link and you get a 404 error, that means it's gone. I'm sorry, and it is no longer available. But while supplies last, we have the entire collection for Time and Tide by Shell Rummel, and we're selling that as fat quarters with the full panel, but the 24 inches by width of fabric. We have the new fat quarter bundles from Wyndham, Cora, and we have some new quilt kits for our beginner quilt kit that is a split 9 patch. And if you haven't heard of our beginner program, it is a series of 12 free videos that you can watch. There's a free pattern that goes with it, and we teach you absolutely everything you need to know to make your first quilt from start to finish and have it turn out fabulous. So we are trying to do better about having quilt kits in stock, so we're going to be seeing some more of these, but there's going to be some yardage available for this, and then also the kit. And if you sign up and you get the pattern for that, you'll get all the videos in your email, and then you also will get a 20% off coupon code. It's a one-time use, so if you used it before, sorry, you can't use it again, but you can use it on some beginner supplies, which would include this kit and any yardage that you would need for your backing as well. And then we've got our new Tourist Tote variation. We're going to try to have more of these in stock as well, because we know it's a bag that you guys really like, and it's very versatile. I use mine literally every single day of this bag. I really love it. So go check out all those goodies over at shop.quiltaddictsanonymous.com, and until next time, happy quilting. All right, so we're going to take a quick pick.